You're listening to The Sister Trill with Danae and Kiveli.
Hello and welcome back to The Sister Trill. I'm Danae.
And I'm Kiveli.
And we are coming to you from our joint home here in Berlin. And today's episode is going to be all about recreational drug use. So what you do at parties, drink alcohol, maybe smoke weed or whatever else there is.
We had an entire episode on the conscious use of substances in connection to meaningful experiences. But this one is going to be more the hedonistic, impulsive, actually I think much more widespread use of many substances. And we're going to talk a bit about maybe our experiences, our perspectives on it.
Exactly. And first we will talk about what we disagreed on this week.
So I couldn't think of a single thing, but Danae apparently could think of something. So
yes,
go.
I thought of something which was actually very fitting, I found, to today's episode, because we're going to be talking about recreational drugs, and I would say number one recreational drug is alcohol, so something to drink. And what we disagree on very often is about a certain drink, which is milk. And Kiveli loves to have real milk with dairy in her coffee, and if she doesn't have milk with dairy but she has like almond milk or oat milk or whatever, you find it not tasty.
Well, just I mean, first of all, I hate drinking milk by itself.
Right.
Like I do not drink milk by itself. No, like whether it's with dairy, whether it is almond milk, any type of milk is just not my type of thing. But I do drink milk in my coffee, and I do like actual dairy milk in my coffee. And
I mean, on the you like it on the level that you say you really cannot drink your coffee.
I don't like it. Because almond milk, I don't know, it doesn't really create the same consistency.
And for me, it's the complete opposite. Mm-hmm. I only like it if it has almond milk or oat milk, or I mean, I very much prefer it. If it has normal milk, it's like, not really my thing.
I don't know, just the almond milk makes it has like this weird sourish aftertaste in combination with the coffee.
I think it makes it sweet.
Interesting. No, I like...
But I mean, I'm not much of a coffee drinker anyway, but for example, Kiveli bought me some chai latte recently, and that I always do with almond milk and not with, normal milk.
Interesting. I don't know. I just,
So anyway, I'm a plant-based milk type of person, and Kiveli's a dairy milk type of person.
Milk. But for the dash of milk in my coffee, I use dairy milk. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what we disagreed on.
Amazing.
A very major, deep
Interesting. How did you even think of that?
Well, because we were talking about it recently, and I said someone from the house is going to the supermarket, and you say, "Oh, we really need fresh milk because it's so important to you to have it in the morning."
Because every time I wake up and then like suddenly I can't drink my coffee.
And I don't even notice it because I don't touch the dairy milk.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. But your partner also drinks coffee with dairy.
That's true.
So we both do.
Yeah.
We kind of like both buy it when we are in the supermarket. Yeah.
Same, yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's dive into the recreational drug use conversation. Mm-hmm. So do you want to give like your all-round perspective on recreational drugs? What's your opinion on it?
Well, I mean, it's totally generally, without even talking about a specific drug. I mean,
you can make a...
generally, I'm someone, as we have already, discussed in previous episodes, who doesn't love substances that alter your state of mind or your state of consciousness. And obviously, drugs do exactly that. So... I'm not the biggest fan of using recreational drugs to enhance an experience. And I find that when we nowadays use recreational drugs, it's exactly for that, to enhance a party, to enhance a night out with friends, or even to make a romantic date even nicer, have some nice wine, this type of thing. And although I totally understand it, it's like a special occasion, let's say, you want to make it even cooler. I always have the perspective of, why do you need to make it cooler? Why don't you just have the right amount of coolness in yourself or, create it differently? So this is the one thing. And then the other thing is using drugs recreationally when you're by yourself. So that would be, for example, smoking weed alone or drinking alone, like the typical, what it's called, the mom glass of wine in the evening. This I find personally even worse than the first one. The first one I can kind of understand, although I I almost never do it. The second one I feel like is the first path into addiction.
Right.
And the second one I find is very dangerous, and it's what's going to
Yeah.
lead eventually to addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like very generally. my
I mean,
perspective.
I agree with all of it completely. I mean, I do think that especially in like certain, I would say, mentalities of young people, drug use is very irresponsible in the way that it's done regularly, and as you said, to enhance an experience that somehow lives solely upon the fact
Yeah.
that it has drug use in it. I do agree that exactly like this regular weed consumption by yourself daily, every other day is. I know that hypothetically there are people that smoke weed very regularly and don't lose drive, don't lose motivation, that actually get some, they say benefits from it. And
like Snoop Dogg or something.
someone
like that.
I'm thinking about like someone like Joe Rogan, Mike Tyson, just people that really
Yeah.
just kind of do it. And I wonder why that helps. Like sometimes I have the feeling that it is like truly medicinal, like maybe to combat
Exactly.
depression, to combat aggression, I can
Yeah,
imagine,
exactly.
to combat maybe a true restless mind
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah, I totally agree, because I also think, of course, we have to differentiate between the substances.
Yeah.
And alcohol, I find there is nothing medicinal about it. But for weed, exactly, I think there is a medicinal use. And if, for example, also if you have like how do you say it in English? Epilepsy.
Epilepsy.
If you have epilepsy, I have read that it really calms you down.
Yeah,
If you have an
yeah.
attack, you totally get
Yeah.
centered again. And so I think these things are very valuable. I'm not talking about medicinal use. This for me really is.
But I
medicinal
wonder whether
use.
there is like a spot between like medicinal, straight out prescribed by a doctor. You've got diagnosed depression, use weed. Like
Yeah.
there's that medicine. Then there is like a more
self-medication.
Self-medication for people where. I mean, I'm pretty sure it works because, I mean, they're extremely successful individuals that propagate this regular use of weed because obviously it has worked a treat for them,
Yeah.
But I do think that it's kind of rare and that any case that I know from personally that I know from my surrounding that includes regular consumption of weed is not one that makes a functional impression, that leaves a functional impression on me. Generally, I would add one thing to this whole conversation, and that is the factor of course, being discerning between the substances, curiosity. Like the question of, is there a danger in trying any substance once? And I think that there are substances that there is a danger trying it once. I mean, like crack cocaine, probably shouldn't try it ever. Like there is no, but there is like, there is the part of me that is just like, I want to explore any sensation there is in the world. Thinks to myself, I do have a curiosity to try most things to see how it would feel.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, within that, there are so many substances that, are coursing through like something, I would say like in Berlin, probably the most notorious substance that most people use cocaine. And for some reason, I don't have the curiosity to try that because I just know, like all the people that I know that have tried it and also like, successful people that I know that have gone through these phases, there is not a single positive, review on it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I don't need to make that particular mistake. I'm not sure I'm going to get, I know I'm not going to get anything from it. But I think that, for example, smoking weed, trying it if you've never done it before, there is some value to it. And maybe, I don't know, if you find that there is like something specific that it does for you, or alcohol or something like that for that matter, use it if you want that specific effect. But then, of course, the question is, when do you want that effect?
Exactly. Well, I mean, I think we have to maybe also differentiate between hard drugs, like cocaine and all that.
Crack, methamphetamines.
And because I think this we don't even really need to discuss. It's obvious that, if you try that, what exactly are you looking for? Some extreme experience? I don't know. I would not say this falls under curiosity.
Yeah.
I
Unless
think
you're doing like a scientific review
this
on
should
it or
just
writing
not
a book.
be touched, in my
Yeah.
opinion. But then there are exactly these things like weed, where if you try it, it's not the end of the world at all. And of course,
LSD, things like weed and
try it once, but then it's the question of regularity
and how you use it, why you use it. Exactly.
And then, I mean, I think that the main portion of this discussion should really be around alcohol, because I find that alcohol is, of course, the mostly wideliest spread drug in the world when it comes to recreational drug use, and it is socially so completely accepted and integrated into our lives, which makes it so different from cocaine, where,
or even weed, although of course weed is being legalized now.
Yeah.
Do you know that Germany is going to probably legalize weed very soon?
Yeah.
Just saying.
By the way, just side note, I'm totally pro.
It is a different
drug
conversation.
legalization. Although I don't consume, I think it is much better to legalize everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, so alcohol, because alcohol is such a part of our lives on the level that if you are someone like me who doesn't drink or drinks very little, because I do drink sometimes, but drinks very little, it's weird. It's a strange situation where you get asked and you get, side-eyed, and it's like, what's wrong with you? Are you sick? Are you ill? Are you pregnant? What are you pregnant? Or you're not pregnant? Okay, come on, have some fun, loosen up, have a drink.
Yeah.
And
the dream part was for you when you were pregnant, and then afterwards when you're still nursing your children, you were like, sorry, I can't, I'm nursing my children. Poor you.
Yeah, exactly. I loved it because I was someone who, very regularly anyway didn't drink at bars. So when I was pregnant or nursing and went out, I was like, oh, sorry, now I actually cannot.
And everyone was like, okay, we understand.
Got it. No discussion, because I was so used to having this long discussion.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about alcohol, and that's, I think, of course, the difficulty with talking about it, especially when we talk about alcohol addiction, because that's where we probably disagree a bit. Like, where does alcohol addiction start, right?
But now this is not even addiction.
No. You just is that, of course, alcohol, it's not just, the effect you get from the substance. It's also, there's so many different drinks and, drinks that are truly tasty, and there are cocktails, there's wine, there's beer, and all of them don't just come with the drink itself, but like an entire culture and atmospheric vibe. Absolutely, atmospheric vibe to them. And the other thing is that alcohol, and I'm not sure, with the other drugs, I'm not sure if that works itself. There is such a thing like microdosing other drugs as well. But, there is a way to consume alcohol that you basically don't feel anything. If you stop after one glass of wine, I don't think you'll feel anything.
I'm going to say that I personally do feel something because I drink so little. I'm super sensitive.
Yeah.
But of course, depending on how much of a regular
glass
drinker you are.
of not beer, but like these, flavored beers or like lemon beers. A bottle of.
I truly feel if I have half a glass of champagne, or if I have.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I also feel.
Okay.
Them.
Yeah. Or if I have a cocktail, definitely I feel it. If I have, half a glass of wine, I feel it. I definitely feel the effect. But that's because...
But in what way do you feel? Do you feel like fuzzy, or do you...
Yes, exactly. Fuzzy. I feel like in my head a bit,
Interesting. Because, interesting enough for me, I don't know why, but I don't drink these drinks very much. Like wine, champagne, these like type of drinks, I feel them very quickly. But then gin tonics and cocktails, I feel them a lot slower.
Yeah, interesting.
I don't know if it's like the sugar content that goes along with it that does something. I don't know.
Usually they say sugar makes it strong.
Oh God, all right. but like, for example, gin tonics, I've often like had 2 gin tonics and not felt that much. But half a glass of wine, I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, there is a way to consume it that doesn't really, where it's very clear you're not consuming it for the effect, but you're consuming it for the taste or for the social convention going along with it,
But then again, of course, if you're having a great time and then you're doing it for the taste, and then you have 3-4 drinks for the taste, then you will, of course, also feel it.
Yes.
And to me, the thing that, bothers me a little bit is how strongly it's ingrained in our culture. What I said before, to the point that it's strange if you don't do it, and that it's like almost unimaginable to have a night out without it.
Yeah, like as if you're prudish.
It comes exactly.
Off
you're
like
boring.
if you're
boring,
prudish, you're paranoid. I don't know. Yeah,
I've heard this often. Like, don't you want to have some fun?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
The other thing that I find interesting, because I've heard it now a couple of times and I wasn't very aware of it because we don't suffer from that, like, liquid courage, needing liquid courage for anything, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that many people consume it as liquid courage,
Yeah, you're right.
And like the type of like, I'm at a date, I need to, mellow out a bit, or I need to just take the edge off, or I'm bored.
I cannot go onto the dance floor without 2 drinks.
I'm not drunk enough to dance, right? Yeah. And these things, of course, I mean, there's always a question of, obviously it would be much better for, to not need the alcohol to dance, to have a good time, to enjoy yourself. But there is also the other side of the conversation is, when does it become problematic? I mean, if the person is not a professional dancer and, I don't know, it's an interesting thing, because on the one hand, I totally understand what you mean. On the other hand, there is a side of me that's like kind of, but I mean, is it really that harmful for the everyday person? Not, of course, when it does go into alcoholism. That's always a type of like sweet spot that we disagree on.
This is now exactly
right?
where the discussion turns into when does it become harmful?
Exactly. Yeah.
And we've talked about this very often. When is it an addiction? And I'm sorry, I'm like a bit careful, because let's just say that within our family we've had experience with alcohol addiction. And this is why I was just going to say that, because this is the reason why I've done so much research on it.
Right.
Even as a young girl, I've been doing research on this subject. And what I found out, what I totally wasn't aware of back then, was how early the addiction begins. Like just, in the brain and physically. Not physically in the sense that you're shaking if you don't drink, but that you crave it, that you actually crave it, not just emotionally and psychologically, the fun, but that you actually crave the substance. And the addiction starts incredibly early. Now, of course, I don't have the exact thing in mind, but for example, if you drink every week, it's considered absolutely, too much. Regularly. Then this is why, we were talking every weekend, party every weekend. How many people do that? And I'm just going to go ahead and say that our society collectively is addicted to alcohol.
Okay.
I really believe that.
Okay. I believe that there is, I understand what you're trying to say. First of all, how many people go through when they start studying crazy binge drinking type of experiences for years, and then at some point finish studying, get a job, live serious lives, and retreat to the wine once whenever, or for special family occasions or dinners or things, which means that is not characteristic for an addiction. An addiction would not be that you stop it because you become more reasonable. An addiction, you would have to go through something approximating withdrawals.
It depends. I'm sure that if you're now, binge drinking every weekend, I'm sure that you are experiencing withdrawals when you stop that behavior.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's a very common trajectory in life.
I think you're right, though, about the phases of life.
Yeah.
Obviously, in your studies, you will
go
be
crazy
partying
a bit and everything.
And that's, the curiosity part, I would say.
The curiosity, and also the obviously testing the limits. Obviously, loving, I loving being out of control, doing extreme things, memorable experiences, and stuff like that.
Within that, there are the people that get lost, in that, and there are the people that don't. So that there already is a separation happening there. It's not that everyone that goes through the crazy gets out of it.
No, but I know. I remember. I mean, we both studied. We all knew most people had an inclination of going crazy every time there was a partyish type of atmosphere going on, and I'm pretty sure that, and also in retrospect, people that we know that are significantly older, fathers, mothers now, when they speak about their studies, they speak about these, youth orchestra stuff, and then we did this, and we forgot, and we're all naked, and I don't know, and all these crazy stories, and those people now have a very, maybe not in your opinion, reasonable attitude to alcohol, because they might belong to the category of a glass of wine every other evening type of situation.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to say.
But it's a different type of drinking than getting drunk and losing control.
Of course, because you don't want to lose control as a mother or father.
Exactly.
But you still
a
totally indulge in the substance.
But a mother or father addicted,
unnecessary.
A mother or father addicted to, say, cocaine cannot, by not wanting to lose control, avoid the withdrawal and the addiction. There is a different...
Yeah, but this is
and
now
also
the
an actual
part.
Alcoholic person on the level of what I would call an alcoholic also cannot control himself. Of course, he doesn't want to lose control.
No, but I think this is the interesting part with alcohol, because so first of all, the road into addiction can be extremely long. It's not like cocaine, take it 5 times and you're in it. Yeah. It can be over the course of 10 years or 15 years.
Right.
It can be very, very long. Then alcohol is one of these, great drugs where you don't really see long-term effects, okay, maybe your skin or whatever, but it's not like
you get
crack where you look like a monster.
And you get some weight. You gain weight.
depending on what you drink. If you drink vodka, no weight gain there. So, I mean, it depends. If you drink beer only, okay. And then it's also one of the drugs where you can get an extreme effect very quickly. Like if you drink high percentage stuff, you can get like, if you want, into a coma, but very extreme effect. And then next day, okay, you have to sleep it off, but you're back to normal. You're back, like once you sleep on it, you're at zero.
Yeah.
So all these things are, very
deceptive.
Yes, very deceptive. And this is why, when you say they all have such great habits, I always ask myself, well, you don't know exactly what's happening there. Drinking every other evening, according to studies that have been made about the subject, is already dangerous.
But I mean, for me, I think that I would differentiate between people that stay in control with whatever substance abuse. That's, by the way, also...
Functioning addicts. Functioning alcoholic. But
there's
a whole term for that.
Right. You don't know it, but I mean, that stay in control and I would say thrive in life with whatever, but that relates to all the substances, right? And people who...
And with alcohol, it's incredibly
like, for example, there is this one, I've not watched that podcast, like that particular episode, but I've been referred to it many times and I understood the gist of it, that there is this one, I think Harvard or some very prestigious university professor who apparently found out that heroin is like a small amount, obviously smaller amount of heroin for him is perfect for his functioning in life type of situation, right? I mean, apart from that's a very
medicinal, or what do you mean?
I haven't watched it, but it was my understanding it makes him function better in life in a way. And I mean, you could say a functional heroin user, you know what I mean?
Well, there are many of those, by the way.
You told me. But I mean, it wasn't what you said with addicted and lost and panicked if you don't have it. It was very controlled. He went on there to just say that any drug taken the right way is not harmful, but it's just finding it the right way. And
I mean,
and I would like to say for that is that for me, when we talk about addiction, there is an element of lack of control without the drug.
But I think
that should go along with it.
But I think that's a misunderstanding because, I mean, how many people do we know who we would both agree on that they have a problem and they function beautifully in life?
I'm not sure who exactly you would be referring to, because the people that I don't just mean function, because I don't just mean functioning in life on the big picture, but I mean that you don't regularly catch in compromisingly weird, out of control scenarios. When I think about someone who drinks regularly, the glass of wine every other day type of situation, or once a week, or champagne, whatever. But it's not every time they drink, then I find them kind of wallowing
not
through,
being able to walk.
not being able to walk anymore, or not being able to speak anymore, or kind of that they don't
but you can be
actually
about
show
and
symptoms of being drunk, or
but you can
or
do that
the
in
influence.
private. You can do that at home. You fall asleep, big deal.
Right, that is a closeted alcoholic that
No,
gets drunk,
I mean,
and then. But I'd be
one example that I'm thinking about is a musician who is super successful and not just performing his own things, but within ensembles, and has very great positions. And I would say on the outside, no one would ever suspect anything, and also on the inside, so to speak, it doesn't look bad at all. But there is the fact, first of all, it's one of those, let's always have some wine, let's always drink something for basically every dinner. And then there have been situations where, for example, a Skype call and this person just falls asleep at some point. Yes, it's late at night, but you won't fall asleep with your Skype on. Because he's out of it, but would never have a problem on stage or
but I'm talking about if, for example, if my friend would regularly fall asleep on Skype, let's just say not once,
not regularly, but every now and then.
I mean, define every now and then, twice.
Well, I mean,
once
first of
a year,
all,
or
I don't know how often it.
Because I think
I know of 3 times within a span of 6 months.
Okay, three times in 6 months.
And that's just with
because,
me.
Because, for example, I think to myself, the last time I got drunk to a point where I was like, okay, everyone could understand that was happening to me right now, was, I think, summer of 2020. And it was just a night out. It was in Greece, and
it was by accident also.
It was by accident, but accident schmaccident. I'm old enough to know when the effect. Yeah, I remember we entered that club, and then we suddenly saw this group of friends, and they had like this bottle of, I think it was actually vodka, open, and like some lemon, and they started pouring drinks. It was cheers here and cheers there, and I drank. But like at this point, it's not like I get drunk behind my own back. Obviously, there was a part of me that decided to give in to this atmosphere and be like, you know what? I'm just gonna let it happen at this moment and get into that vibe,
Yeah.
No, I can't tell you why it wasn't like, and obviously it's not like I didn't find my way home or that,
Exactly.
like,
When you say I got drunk, you're not talking about puking, you're not talking about unconscious.
No, but I'm talking about like people noticing it,
Okay.
right? That's the level. People noticing it, and as I said, for me that happens less than once a year.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
but I'm saying like there
Not
are
even,
these.
yeah.
These situations have happened in the past.
Yes, but that's completely different.
Yeah, and right. That's why I'm saying like the frequency plays a role, and it's not. And it's
If I saw you from the outside with my, let's say, very critical eye,
you would have lost it.
no, I mean your entire behavior,
right?
Towards alcohol. I would never label you as someone who is a budding. I
remember we did this.
Alcohol
we did
addict.
this test
because exactly that's interesting because we did this test because we were disagreeing on this because Kiveli said that she finds it too strict to say every month or what it was already is the start of an addiction.
Yeah,
and then we did the test and there are some other things that go with it. It's not just how regularly you drink and how much, but it's also how do you act.
How much do you drink on those occasions?
How much, but I think also very important for the points in the end was how do you act? Have you been, for example, physical violence?
Exactly,
have you forgotten something? Have you ever regretted getting drunk? All these things. Yeah. And there you were at 0 points consistently.
Yeah.
And I think that's, also very important for this.
Yeah.
But I just want to quickly get back to the functioning alcoholic thing because I really think it's a very big misconception that we have because I've heard this often, no, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not lying drunk on the street. Or, someone saying, no, come on, he's not an alcoholic. Look at, what great things he's doing. And I find that this is really dangerous because there are so many alcoholics out there that look amazing on the outside. And there's so many stories you can, read about and watch where people say that as well. There was also this very famous news anchor in the US, a lady who, was on the morning news every day and was super addicted to alcohol.
And you think that, when you say this is dangerous, it's obviously there is the danger that though functioning alcoholics are going to end up being non-functioning alcoholics. Yeah. But do you think that it is a sign of like lack of happiness that you're not addressing and you're drinking away? Because what do you think would be better in their lives if they took away that the alcohol, despite being, a functional member of society?
I definitely think that they are deeply unhappy because at least, when I read the stories about these very famous, successful, functioning alcoholics, they say that it's also obviously a huge stress because you have to function on the outside and that you're not functioning on the inside. That then you get home.
Right. But that is not the level of like the 2-3 glasses of wine a week every now and then. Do you think that they know?
It starts there. That's where it starts. Like, for example, that news anchor story is one of those. It started with a drink after work with friends, and then it went on, and then something happened. She got divorced, and then it ended up being 2 drinks at home, to just chill.
Yeah.
And because that's the other thing, a big thing for me with alcohol. I'm really only speaking about alcohol right now. Once you've realized that this maybe is the drug that, calms you down or, takes the edge off, as they say after a work day, when life hits you with something, then you'll be more prone to take a little bit more of the edge off.
Right.
Because you'll be like, okay, I deserve this now. I've had a hard day.
Right.
Whatever, someone died.
Right.
And
so
then...
So that there is this new, movement or something going on of many people that say like alcohol horrible, weed instead. Like alcohol is the worst drug. There's so many more beautiful drugs out there. quite specifically, people say mushrooms, weed, and things like that. So what do you think about that perspective? Like replacing one with a apparently better one.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
I mean, with mushrooms, I have zero experience, so I cannot say anything about that. With weed, I have little experience, but at least I have some experience. I mean, I don't know. I think that, first of all, from the physical damage, weed is much better.
Yeah.
I mean, what alcohol does to your brain and cells and body is not good.
Yeah.
Also, I find it very important that, you know, if you have a young, let's say, you know, naive kid who drinks an entire bottle of vodka,
Right.
it could die. You can
would
never
die.
Yeah, right. But, you know, it would never die of smoking 20 joints.
Yeah.
So I think alcohol is more dangerous. I agree with that.
Should first manage to smoke a joint.
Yeah, I find
Right.
alcohol more dangerous than weed. Absolutely. I would also say that weed is the better drug.
Interesting. Interesting.
Now, you know, do I find it a great drug? Not necessarily, but I think that I do agree. Weed, I think, is the better drug compared to alcohol.
Yeah. I think interesting.
And also, people don't get violent on weed; they get mellow. That's
yes.
better.
Yeah. Interesting. Because I mean, it's even I totally understand when you're unpacking this, you know, the other and the alcohol. This still, like, when I think of, and that's probably to prove your point of how ingrained it is in our society. When I think of what do I want to do on a free night, you know, I want to go to a bar. You know, not because, oh my God, I'm searching for that alcohol. No. It's because of everything attached to going to a bar. You make yourself a bit more pretty. You go, you know, like it's a nice atmosphere. It's like an atmosphere that you know, it's kind of has a vibe.
I also want to go
yummy,
to a bar.
Right, the yummy cocktails, and you know, especially it's a good bar. They've got like their own cocktails. They create something special. They come in fancy glasses, fancy ice cubes.
No,
you know, and everything.
I so relate to that. And I also want to go to a bar, and then I usually, not always, have that little awkward situation of, okay, I don't want to have 95% of what's on that menu. But then again, of course, you could have a super tasty, yummy, cool, non-alcoholic cocktail in a fancy glass.
A virgin colada.
Safe for sex on the beach.
Exactly, safe for sex on the beach. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I mean,
I think what would be important would be to make it more, normalize it. Normalize going out and having the same amount of fun as drunk people. Not drunk.
But that, for me, that is actually just normalizing getting out of your comfort zone. With that, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Whoa. I believe that is, I agree with that totally, but that is like a much deeper issue of, like, you know, you'd have to first encourage people being okay with themselves, being okay,
but, you know,
doing things that they're slightly uncomfortable or scared of.
You could, you know, in a bar, for example, give maybe 2 pages of selection for non-alcoholic, except for the usual 3, 4.
Right.
That you find, or as, you know, fancy as it is to have a gin bar, you know, where you can have 200 types of gin. Do something else. Do it with kombucha, you know? You know?
No,
Let's
I
go
totally
for
understand.
200 types of kombucha. You know, something like
no,
that.
and I totally agree with that, because the interesting thing is, like, the time I drink the least is when I actually go out. When I go out dancing, I tend to not drink.
Because you want to have energy.
Because I want to have energy, I want to dance, and it's like, I hate holding glasses and having to dance at the same time. It's like, I need my hands and everything. So it's interesting. It's interesting because I get it, and at the same time, I'm like, I do still think that I believe the bar of addiction starts a bit later, just because I also think that if something is so accepted, there are more reasons you do it than just, oh my God, you crave the substance. There is also a reason of, I don't know, it just being a habit, you know, like maybe your dad did it, so you do it as well. It is because there's so many events where alcohol is just part of the event. Like, you know, a nice reception after a concert always has alcohol as a part of it. A fancy dinner has a wine with it, the wine kind of thing. So, you know, because it's like the experience comes up in so many different facets of your life, and it's so accessible that takes away from you doing it exclusively for the substance. You do it also for other reasons. And therefore, I feel like that is an argument against addiction, which for me is always like a bit of a more, you know, dysfunctional like relationship
but
to
of
something.
course, one could also argue, and I obviously very much believe that because it is so accessible, you're introduced to it in a much easier way. And someone who would maybe never even think of alcohol stumbles upon it continuously.
Yeah.
I mean, you're introduced to the concept of alcohol, since you're a little kid.
Yeah.
Champagne on New Year's and
Yeah.
whatever. And
Yeah.
so I think that's also part of the danger.
Yeah.
Of course, I understand it's not forbidden.
Yes.
Not at all.
And I mean,
But
obviously there are
because
drinking
it's-
age limits.
Yeah, yes. And also, maybe one more thought, because it's so accepted, if someone is drunk in a club or on a night out, it's not something that, makes the alarm go off.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, that person had one good night out,
Right,
chill.
right.
And this is also something that I've experienced,
Yeah.
people being like, when I knew this is not good, this
Mm-hmm.
is not what it's supposed to be, because I knew that person and I knew this person had a problem, and the other people are like, come on,
Yeah.
let that person have a good night out
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just
yeah.
have some fun. And if you see someone going crazy, scratching all over their body from some other drug, no one's gonna be like, let him
Yeah,
have some
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Okay, he's obviously not okay. And this is also a problem, that when someone's drunk, it's okay, whatever.
I mean, there is definitely probably also an issue with like the plethora of movies like that are totally over glorifying drunk nights, drunk like fraternities and sororities and college
And
experiences
just
and
if you
losing
go-
control when
yeah.
you're drunk and everything.
Just simply when you go into the duty free at an airport, look at the cigarette section, which looks just disgusting, full of disgusting images with
Disclaimers
lungs and it's just disgusting to look at. And then look at the alcohol section, which looks glamorous.
That's true.
I mean,
That's true.
it's beautiful with beautiful
That's true.
people
Yeah.
and fancy bottles, and you're like, okay, this is high society place to be.
Yeah, it's a weird one that we've kind of stigmatized so much, but we've not stigmatized alcohol.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of starting to destigmatize other substances. Where will that lead? And I remember I asked you that already once, that I find it interesting that with all the substances that exist in nature, that the one that kind of made it to such popularity amongst everywhere was alcohol.
Yeah.
That's the one. And I think it's because it's so easy to probably
I actually
make.
don't have the answer to that. I don't know. Maybe because it's easy to make.
I mean,
Because
in the
there
middle-
was the prohibition. There
Right,
was
and
the
I'm thinking
alcohol.
about I think in the Middle Ages, people used to drink alcohol instead of
Instead
water.
of water, yeah.
Like pale ale and things
right.
like that, because it was less
Constantly
contaminated.
drunk. Yeah. Exactly, because it's like, of course, a disinfectant.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is just a whole interesting
Yeah.
other view of it. Like, just
I'm thirsty.
literally, they must have been constantly inebriated.
Of course.
Constantly, like, to a
course.
certain
Yeah,
extent.
yeah.
Obviously, they must have also had some immunity to it.
Yeah.
But, like, kids would drink it too.
Yeah. I mean, look at the violence of the Middle Ages.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So,
Also, I mean, Jesus turned blood into wine, right?
didn't he turn water into wine? Water into wine.
Water into.
Yeah.
So I'm so familiar with the Bible. Water,
But yes, something into wine.
yeah.
I feel it was water.
which means that
wine
I
was,
mean,
something valuable.
something valuable. And I mean, and also that already back when these stories were kind of written and created, by the four Marcus, Luke, John and Matthäus, I think.
Yeah.
That it was already like an accepted thing that wine is a symbol for something valuable and holy and sacred.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So this alcohol acceptance goes incredibly deep.
And no, you don't drink wine in the church, right? What do you drink? This thing that you...
I think you're supposed to drink wine.
Is it wine?
And oh my God, Dionysus.
Yeah, of
like
course.
the only god within the Olympians that started out as a human was Dionysus. And why was he made a god? Because of his invention of wine.
Of wine, exactly, yeah.
Are we maybe kind of missing something here? I mean, have we considered that?
Lord. Yeah. I mean, wine is glamorous, you have the whole wine, how do you say, wine fields? No, wine acres? Wine, I don't know.
Yeah.
Where you create wine anyway.
Grape fields.
Grape fields.
I mean,
all these images of gods with grapes.
Yeah.
And
yes.
it's considered glamorous, it's considered sexy, elegant. It's considered a high
I'm sorry,
society
it just
thing.
intrigued me to think about the fact that in ancient Greece, a drink existed. You know what I mean? He didn't make gin tonic, you know?
Right.
He made wine.
Yeah.
And why? Like, I'm trying to understand what it represents. It represents frenzy. It represents lack of control. It represents something elegant.
Yeah.
But what is it that makes it like, so like undoubtedly good?
Yeah. Nothing.
Obviously, I mean, I wouldn't presume to be smarter than like
Than
the
Dionysus.
collective like consensus of the ancient Greek myths. But I'm gonna have to think about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, you are right. It's, it's super culturally ingrained.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
Especially certain drinks,
Yeah.
more than just alcohol, like certain drinks.
Yeah. I mean, if the fine wine is also an expression,
Yeah.
tastes like a fine
Didn't
wine.
Odysseus make the Cyclop drunk? And in that way, kind of, also trick him with the I'm nobody or something like that? Or
I'm
or
wondering
not?
right now because there is a wine that's called Canenas, which means nobody,
I'm
named
pretty sure.
after that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that the
Maybe
story goes
yeah.
that Odysseus eats with him and makes him drunk.
makes him drunk, and then he says, "I'm nobody," and yeah.
So maybe the difference between our perspective and that perspective is that we judge a human in a less controlled frame of mind more than the ancient Greeks. That like humans that had a less controlled state of mind was like
Something to aspire to.
not
back
necessarily aspire, but something that is not judged, non-judgment. Like he's in that state right now,
Yeah.
something that, because obviously, as we said, that the Odysseus story is, someone is being tricked due to being drunk.
Yeah.
But then, the god of wine is like, hailed as such an
Yeah.
important figure and everything. So maybe it is more a question of why are we so judgmental of, like not being in control anymore?
Maybe it's also because we're talking, 2, 3, 4,000 years later, and we see now how it has developed, and there still is that elegant element to it, but there also is a very unelegant, dangerous element to it. And maybe this is something that we now realize just looking back, because back then, maybe in times when the myths were written down, when mythology was written down, not everyone could have wine, and it was
Right,
something
right.
maybe also for the rich, and it was like, wow, I just had a sip of wine.
Right.
Now, where you can buy a wine for $1.99 and get drunk off it, it's a
So it's
different
basically,
vibe,
once
maybe.
again, we arrive at the fact it's abuse of the substance.
Yeah.
And not the substance itself. Although with alcohol, it's so easily to abuse it.
Yeah.
So easy to abuse it.
Alcohol is
Interesting.
really a tricky one. And as you already said, I find it crazy that that's the accepted one
Yeah.
out of all of them.
Yeah. Interesting.
So yeah,
Maybe
I
we're
think
gonna have a
that,
follow-up on that with more explanation.
when we thought about what we just said. But I think that kind of concludes our episode on recreational.
Do we have
drug use.
stories
Stories.
on mutual?
Do you have a story?
Let me think. I feel like I should have a story. Actually, I have a story. It's more the perspective on because the first time. Okay, basically like a small background story on like my history with alcohol, and in terms of like maybe irresponsible use of alcohol or something like that. Basically, when I turned 18, I still had never been drunk because like I didn't see the value in it. I wasn't really, it didn't really. I wasn't that type of person that was like, oh my god, I need to drink like 10 beers.
Yeah.
Also, I don't like beer, which is like kind of the drink of choice here in Germany. So that but I was curious how it feels. So I asked like 3 very close friends in Molivos in Greece to like have like one evening when I was there over holidays to get drunk with me so I can see how it feels like in a controlled, safe environment. So
I find that so funny.
so we actually did that, and I remember like one of the boys his parents had a restaurant, so he took like 4 of like the house wine bottles, and we like drank lots and lots of red wine, and obviously the effect was felt. But then that was like the first time I'd gotten drunk. That was like, okay, now I see how it feels. Don't necessarily need to do it again. But then the second time I got drunk was really like what Danae was saying, like I did not, it was a matter of not having experience with how quickly the switch can come. And we were at a festival together. It was probably like half a year or maybe a year later or something like that. And it was the last evening of the festival. And the situation was that we had kind of rented a small room, like a group of musicians had rented a small room at the bottom of a club. And we had access to like all the entire bar. And some of the much more drinking, happy, seasoned drinking musicians were pouring shots. And at that point, I don't think I'd ever been a part of like, and shots and here and this. And we just started drinking these shots like to music and to passion and to love and to art and to us and to this and to whatever. And like at some point, I remember I was like in the bathroom and I looked at myself and I was like, I can't see myself clearly anymore. Like I was a bit like shocked like by that fact. Like because also like in that state of like this, you don't notice it that much because there's so much movement and motion and emotional, nothing is still. And then suddenly when you're in the room where everything is still, you're like, why is nothing actually still? And I remember I went out to you and I was like, and I think I'm a bit drunk. But actually there is literally half an hour that I don't have a clear memory of. But I remember that because then I stopped drinking, obviously. Throughout the rest of the evening, I actually got sober. Like by the end of the evening, I was sober again. Yeah. But you have to say like you have to fill in the rest of the story because I remember being in that bathroom being like, this is weird. And then the next thing I do remember like pictures and scenes, but the next thing I remember with a clear mind is walking back actually from the club to the hotel.
Okay, yeah. No, I remember that night totally, and I remember you coming to me and saying, you took me like by the hand and you were like, don't judge me, but I'm actually pretty drunk right now. And I also remember at the beginning of the evening, it's like, I don't know if I commented on anything, or something like, maybe you shouldn't drink so much or something like that. But I remember you telling me, come on, I kind of want to get into this feeling. And I just thought, Lord help us.
Yeah, because that whole festival coincided with like me being involved with a guy you didn't approve of. At that point,
it was more complicated.
It was more complicated than that. It was a bit more complicated. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
But but I remember that, and I thought, okay, you're actually wanting this. And then when you came, and it was so obvious that you were not wanting this.
Yeah. You were like, okay.
I was like, okay, let's protect you.
Like, what type of drunk do you think I am? Am I I'm probably the clingy drunk type, right?
Yeah. Well, I was just about to get to that. Okay. So then you started getting into cuddle mode.
Right.
And
which, by the way, is a mode I also get into when I'm completely
that's also
sober.
her natural state. But she was cuddling everyone and expressing deep portions of love for everyone. So I think you're definitely the clingy, loving drunk. You love the world when you're drunk.
Yeah.
No, and it was. It was super like harmless and cute and funny. Yeah. Well, I don't really have a story about you because while you were singing, I was also thinking of that story. But maybe just because it's funny, that same evening, of course, I was also there and, there were shots. And maybe a funny story is just how I, growing up, learned to, always pretend to drink. And thereby avoid drinking. If I didn't feel like saying I don't want it because it was always such a complicated discussion, I was just pretending to drink. So I had different techniques. There was let's have shots, and then I just took a sip and just put it somewhere. Then there was the thing, cheers, and just pour it out, like just throw it away somewhere. Then there was the very slow drinking, like have one cocktail over the course of 4 hours, just like sip, sip. So many different things. And I remember when I was, like 16 or 17, 18, like clubbing age in school times, there would always be this thing that when you entered the club, you got a voucher for a drink. And everyone was like, okay, bar, let's go to the bar. And I was like, let's go to the bar. Pretending that was my destination. Get that drink. I was always like, one gin tonic, let's go. And then I had this thing, and I would like have one sip and then put it somewhere and go on the dance floor, literally not touch it again.
Right.
And
did you not ever have like this curiosity that I described? Like, how does it feel to be drunk and do it like in a safe, contained environment?
I really never wanted to feel drunk. Whenever, because obviously I've also experienced a buzz, but whenever that buzz set in, it always worried me. I was always like, ooh, okay. I always wanted to be there, enjoy the evening, first of all, like with my full senses. And secondly, also, of course, not be weird.
But I mean, maybe you would. Just because. So you've never ever been.
No, I have. Well, the most drunk that I've been was also, without noticing it,
Yeah.
while it was happening.
Yeah.
I was on this cruise ship and we were having ouzo. And
Right.
it was like in one of these bars and like 3 ouzos and also something else before. And I didn't really know what's happening. And then I thought, is this the ship or is this me?
Okay, I see.
So no, I have experienced it. Totally didn't like it. I was already thinking.
Yeah.
Well, I was already thinking to
Bless you.
I was already thinking to myself there, this is not something that I like.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't like it either. It's not like something to aspire to at all.
But I was always afraid of the effect.
Although I have to admit, there was one time in my life where I felt like, wow, this is actually kind of nice in a helping way, where I remember it was like I was studying and I was at this bar, and for some reason I was having like a very, very insecure night. Like I was kind of, for whatever, I don't remember what had happened.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, we're all drinking gin tonics or something like that, and that I was drinking it and I started feeling that buzz, and that's usually when I would like stop. And also at that point I didn't drink far more, but I remember like that buzz made me feel better, and I was like, oh, I actually feel better right now. You know what? Let me drink some more.
And I think what you're describing right there
Yeah.
is the danger.
Is the danger. Right, but I mean, yeah. And I remember I had that
exactly
thought
that.
and I was like, huh, interesting thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, I mean, the reaction is, okay, work on being more secure.
Of course, but
drinking.
that's not most people's reaction.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway.
All right. So that concludes our recreational drug episode with a focus on alcohol.
Exactly.
And that's why, by the way, when we were starting to this podcast, I had suggested, like, for a nice vibe, maybe we want to have like nice drinks. So because we usually always record it in the evening, to have like, maybe a nice, because we have actually extremely good and expensive alcohol, courtesy of our father, in our house that we do not drink unless
guests.
other people are there for guests. And I was saying, like, maybe we want to like have a really nice whiskey or a nice cocktail and have it there. And then, because we don't actually ever drink in real life, and so what we end up drinking all the time is water.
So we have the water
So
here.
yeah, it's far less exciting and less atmospheric, but that is
But
at least
just
honest.
as cool.
Absolutely.
Or it should be.
Absolutely. For sure.
So yeah, see you next week. And sending you lots of love from Berlin.
Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to The Sister Trill with Danae and Kiveli.